She returned to her hometown to look for her brother who was reported missing since their father's death. She received information that her brother went to a forest where there was a community living there. The woman tried to find him there with the help of a male friend from the past, but what happened was beyond expectations. The woman's name was Grace. She had just returned to her hometown to look for her missing brother named David. Grace lived in a religious family environment. Her father was a former pastor who was devout in church activities and always provided services to his congregation. When he died, he bequeathed all his wealth to be donated to the church where he provided services. This actually made Grace confused why her father did that. The city was famous for its large mines. Most of the residents worked as miners, and one of the former miners was Grace's uncle. They had not seen each other for a long time. The last time they met was several years ago when Grace was still a child. Grace told the purpose of her visit to the city. She wanted to find David, who was reported missing since their father's death. Her uncle seemed to be hiding something and asked Grace to forget David. Unfortunately, Grace couldn't do that because Grace intended to reunite their family. Her uncle couldn't stop him, so Grace still wanted to look for David wherever he was. Even though there were many missing person posters in the city as a sign that something was wrong there, Grace looked for information about the community that David joined. She found the place, but many of them left by car. Grace entered the building and saw one of the women who didn't go. The woman said that her friends went to the forest, but she didn't explain in detail why they went there. But she gave a little hint and gave the address of a man who was part of them. Grace went to the address, a man named Mr. Gren, who was none other than Grace's childhood friend. Grace asked him to help take her to David. At first, Mr. Gren didn't want to, but when Grace gave him some money, he agreed. Their journey began. Some equipment had been prepared for supplies. Actually, several times Grace looked hesitant to be accompanied by Mr. Gren, but he convinced Grace to remain calm and trust him. They spent the night and had to make camp before the next morning they continued their journey again. Grace felt they had walked far enough but still hadn't found any sign of David. Even when Grace wanted to see the map Mr. Gren brought, she wasn't allowed. What do you think he was covering up? They had to spend the night and set up camp again that night. But the next morning Grace didn't see Mr. Gren. Did he leave her? Since then, Grace has been terrorized and watched by an invisible figure. Her sleep was restless, and sometimes she dreamed of something strange and terrible. Her nights became even more terrifying when Grace felt something was watching her outside the tent. Even more terrifying, she found a corpse that had become a skeleton with an identification tag named Michael. Grace was even more frightened then, a few moments later, someone passed by carrying a torch in the dark of the night. Even though Mr. Gren had left her, Grace continued to walk looking for a way out without a clear direction. She even fell from a cliff and injured her leg. A few hours later, Grace saw several young men setting up camp. It seemed like it was the community that David had joined. But a few moments later, several masked humans killed them one by one and clicked them. Grace was caught and tied to a tree. When she woke up, she saw many bodies wrapped in white cloth hanging from the tree. Then in front of her was Mr. Gren, who was also captured by them. So what really happened? David is a member of a strange community. They will kill people by beheading them. However, if there is someone who feels entitled to be part of them, namely Grace. While Mr. Gren did not enter, he was killed in front of Grace. Grace tried to invite David to come home and be together again as a family, but he refused. David had suffered a lot living with his father and mother. In the past, he often received unfair treatment from his father. Even he was expelled from the church, so he ran away and joined the community. When Mr. Gren and the others were finished off, Grace still survived and looked for David's location. He was in a cave to meditate. Armed with a small knife just in case, Grace accidentally stabbed David, who appeared suddenly. As a result, David died. Then the shadow of Grace's late father and mother appeared. They actually supported Grace to continue what David had started, to be part of the community. But would that be dangerous and contrary to true religious values?